Okay, so in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to write your first blog post using the WordPress block editor, otherwise known as Gutenberg. If you're watching this tutorial, you're probably in one of two camps. Either you're a brand new blogger wanting to find out how to write your very first blog post in WordPress, or you're a seasoned blogger who's been writing blog posts for years, but always in the Classic Editor, and you're just a teensy-weensy bit freaked out about switching over to the new block editor. Either way, this tutorial is for you. I'm going to take you step by step through how to write your very first blog post using the WordPress block editor. And if you're still using the Classic Editor, I'll show you how you can make the switch in just one blog post so you can test it out before switching over fully. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to show you how to transfer from the WordPress Classic Editor to the WordPress block editor. If you're new to blogging, you won't have this Classic Editor plugin. You can just ignore this section, and I'm only going to spend 2 minutes here, and then we'll get straight on to how to actually write your first blog post using the WordPress block editor. However, if you have been blogging for a while and you're still using the Classic Editor, now is definitely time to make the switch before you get left behind. And I've got really good news for you. Not only is the block editor actually really easy to use, there's also a great way to try before you buy, as it were. You can simply switch Gutenberg on for one blog post and give it a whirl. And here's how. So first of all, head to your WordPress dashboard and go to Plugins, Installed Plugins, and find where it says Classic Editor and just click the Settings. Okay, and in the settings, look for where it says Allow users to switch editors, and make sure that you have Yes selected. And this will mean that on any given post, you can decide when you first start that post whether you'd like it in Classic Editor or the block editor. Okay, so once you've done that, go to New and Post. Okay, and as you can see, we've currently just got the Classic Editor loaded up here, but if you make that little switch in the Classic Editor, you can then come down here on the right hand side to where it says Default Editor for Current User and just click Switch to Block Editor. Okay, and now you have the block editor here. This is what the block editor or Gutenberg looks like. And this is just set up for this post. Okay, so if you then were to go into another new post, you would have the option again to either decide to use the Classic Editor or switch over to the block editor. So you can do this on a post by post basis. Start off, just try out one blog post in Gutenberg, see how you get on, and then after that you can keep using Gutenberg, or you can scurry back into Classic Editor if you really hate it. In reality, once you've written one blog post in the block editor, you're unlikely to ever go back to using the Classic Editor, but having the option open makes the switch easier psychologically. If you are a brand new WordPress blogger, don't worry about anything I've said up to this point. The Classic Editor plugin is not something that will be installed on a brand new WordPress blog. You will have the block editor, Gutenberg, as your default editor. So all you need to do is just go to Add New and Post, and you will be presented with this screen as your default blog editor screen. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is give your post a title, and you can do that in this section where it says auto draft. I think sometimes this says add title. I've got another WordPress blog and it says add title here. I don't know why some say auto draft and others say add title, but whatever yours says, the point is this section at the top is where you put your title. Okay, so once you've put your title into your blog post, the next thing you need to do is to add some text. And to add text, you just click here where it says start writing or type / to choose a block. So just click there and then you can just literally start writing. And when you want to start a new paragraph, just click the return key in the normal way. And every time you hit that return key, the WordPress block editor will create a new block. So this here, if we click back into that, this is what a text block looks like. And you've got obviously your text that you've just written there, and then you've got lots of options along the top here to edit and make some changes. And we'll see what those things do in a minute. But I just want to show you how easy it is to add new text blocks. So you add your text, you click return, and then you add some more text. And you hit return and you can add some more text. Okay, and every time you hit return, as I said, you are making a new block, and that's why it's called the block editor. Okay, so once you've added some text, the next thing you're going to want to do is add some headings. Okay, so to add a heading is really easy. So you can just create your heading. So this is my heading, and then click into that block and come here to the paragraph symbol. Click on the paragraph symbol and just select heading, and it will automatically transfer your heading into H2, which is the main heading style that you're going to use in your blog. So your post should be divided into subsections, and each subsection should have a heading, and that heading should be H2. If you have a section that you then divide up into subsections, then you want to use the H3 headings. And to change an H2 heading into an H3 heading is really easy. There's two places you can do it. You can either do it just here in the little toolbar that appears above the block, and you can change it to heading 3 or heading 4 if you make an even smaller subsection within your subsection, but that would be how you change it to heading 3. The alternative is you can look over here on the right hand side, and you've got the option of H1, H2, H3, H4, H5 and H6. H1 is only for your title, and if you have a good theme, your title should already be in H1, so you don't need to worry about H1 at all. Don't use that for subheadings ever. H2 is obviously your main subheadings, and then H3 is your sub-subheadings, and H4 is your sub-sub-subheadings, and so on. So in reality, most of the time, you're only going to be using H2 and H3, maybe occasionally H4. Okay, so this is a main section subheading, so I'm going to change that to heading 2. And the other thing you can do with headings is you can change the color. So if I decided I wanted to change the color of my heading, I would come back over here onto the right hand side, and you've got some default colors here, or you can add a custom color of whatever color you fancy, or you can put in a hex code here. Okay, so let's just give you an example here. I can change my heading to blue or purple or orange. And if I decide actually I want to go back to the default, then you just go here and click clear. Okay, so let's say for this example, we want to make my heading red. Okay, so I've just added a few more headings and a little bit more text, because the next thing I want to talk to you about is spaces. So as you can see, the way Gutenberg works is each block is just kind of added one after the other. And this ends up giving you quite a sort of crowded looking blog post. If you're used to using the Classic Editor, then you're probably more used to treating your blog posts a bit like a Word document and adding kind of space between each section, using the return key to give you so that a little bit of white space. But in Gutenberg, it doesn't quite work like that. So what you end up with is having quite a squished together text, which doesn't have a lot of white space. Let me show you this in preview so you can see better what I mean. Okay, so you can see here the preview of that text I've just written, and can you see how all the sections are really squished up together and you've not got that white space? But it is really easy to add that white space in Gutenberg. So let's go back to our editing screen. If you want to add the space, so I would want to add a little bit of white space in between each section of my text. And to do that, you just come here to where you want to add that white space, and you'll get this little plus sign which appears. And you just want to click that plus sign. And then this will give you like the menu of all the different blocks that you have available. And the block that we want is called a spacer block. So you're just going to scroll down here till you find layout elements and click on that, and then click this one called spacer. And by default, that will give you a spacer that is 100 pixels high. You can see that over here, it's 100 pixels high. To my mind, that's a little bit big. So I tend to use a spacer of 40 pixels between my main sections and then 20 pixels between my subsections. So the way to change the height in pixels is really easy. You just come over to this right hand menu, and where it says 100, you just change it to whatever height you want it to be. You can play about with this and get a height that you're really happy with. I'm going to choose 40. And you can see automatically it's gone much smaller. And if we have a little look at the preview, you can see now that you've got that little bit of white space, which is going to make your blog post much easier to read, much more pleasurable to read to your audience, and really enhance the user experience. Okay, so to repeat that, so that we get spaces in between these sections as well, I could repeat exactly what I've just done, but to make my life easier, it's much better if I create a reusable block. I'll talk more about reusable blocks later, but just for now, let me show you how to make this spacer block, this 40px spacer block, reusable. So you just come over here to where the 3 dots appear just above your spacer, and you click here to where it says add to reusable blocks, click that, and then you give your reusable block a name. Now I would give my reusable block the name 40px spacer. And then you just click save. Now I've already got this block, so I'm not going to click save, but if you are doing this for the first time, you can just click save, and then you will have saved that spacer, and then you can come to just reuse that spacer. So this is what that then looks like on the other side. So let's just X out of that. And now this is how I do it normally. So I just click add block, and then I've got this 40px spacer saved here. This is because I use this one all the time. If you don't see it here in your most used section, just scroll down here to your reusable blocks section, and you should find it in your reusable blocks section. So just click that 40px spacer, and then it's going to add that 40px spacer into each section, so that your text is really nicely spaced out. Okay, so then if we just go over to our preview and take a quick look at what that looks like now, you can see that my text is much more nicely spaced out and easier to read. Okay, so the next thing I want to show you is how to add an image to your text. So to add an image to your blog post, you first of all want to hover just about where you want your image to be. So let's just hover here, and again you'll get that little plus sign pop up, and you can click add block, and then you want to come down here to image and select image, and then you've got a choice. You can either upload your image directly from your computer, or you can select an image that you already have in your media library, so an image you've previously uploaded. So let's say, for example, in this blog post I want to upload an image from my computer, so I'd go to upload. and then I'd select an image that I want. Let's go for this pig, this piggy bank, and click open. And then you have got your image there, and in this side panel on the right you have a number of different options that you can use. The first thing you want to do is give your image an alt text. This is the text that describes what your image is. It's used in a number of different ways, but particularly for visually impaired people, it will describe the image to them. So you can click into that alt text and just write a quick description of what that image is. Okay, so this image is a gold piggy bank sitting on top of a pile of books. And then the next thing you can do is you can change the image size. So you've got thumbnail, medium, large, or full size. And if you don't like any of those sizes, you can choose the image dimensions yourself. So I always put my images in at 600 by 400. And as you can see at the moment, the image is left justified, but I like my images to be centered. So if you just click into this section here where it says change alignment, and then you've got the option for align left, center, right, wide, or full width. I'm going to pick this one as just align center, and you can see my piggy bank is now in the center of the page. So that's how you'd upload a photograph from your computer. If you want to upload an image that's already in your media library, you would just go, so hover again to get the plus sign, select image block, and this time go to media library and select something from your media library. Let's select this wind turbine and click select, and you could change the alt text if you want to. So I'm going to change this to wind turbine. And again, you can change the image size. So again, I'm going to go for my 600 by 400. And I'm going to change the alignment to be centered. Okay, and now if you go up here and preview, you can see what you've done. And as you can see, if we scroll down, there's my piggy bank and there's my wind turbine. So that's how you put pictures into your blog posts. So the next thing I want to show you is how to add links into your blog post. So let's go back to the editing screen. And let's suppose that here where we've got text, we actually want to make this a link. Okay, so the way to do that's very simple. You click into the block, you highlight the text that you want, and then you click on this little paperclip symbol, which is the link symbol, and you get a box here where you can either paste in the URL that you want, or you can type in here to search for a particular URL that is on your blog already. So let's say I wanted to link this to my Tailwind tutorial. So I could just type in Tailwind. And there we go, how to use Tailwind, a step-by-step guide for bloggers. If I click on that, it's now put the URL in for my Tailwind tutorial. And then if I go to link settings, I've got the option, if I want to make that open in a new tab. And then you can just hit apply, and I have my link here. And again, let's go have a look at that on the preview screen. If we scroll down to where I put that link, which is right here at the bottom where it says text, and if we click on that, it will now open that Tailwind tutorial in a new tab, because that's what we set it to do. Okay, back to the editing screen. One thing you may want to do with your links is set them to be nofollow. A nofollow link is something that you'd use, for example, if you're linking to a brand who've bought a sponsored post with you, or if you're linking to an affiliate link. Basically, any kind of link that you're paid for, either now or in the future, you might be paid for, you want to make sure is a nofollow link. To make your link nofollow is very easy. First thing to do is to make sure that you have set your link to be open in a new tab. which is what you would typically want to do for any external link. And then come up to the three dots in the menu and click on that and click Edit as HTML. And then look for where it says no referrer, no opener, and just change that no referrer to be Nofollow. Okay, and then click the three dots again and click Edit Visually. And so now this link is a Nofollow link. You can still, your readers will still be able to click on it and follow that link, but search engines won't take that link into account in their algorithms for determining where various posts and pages sit in their search results. Okay, so that's how you make a link Nofollow in Gutenberg. Okay, the next thing I want to show you is how to make a coloured background in Gutenberg. So one really great feature of the WordPress block editor that's different from the classic editor, it's very quick and easy to put a background behind some text that you want to stand out. So let's say right here I'm writing through my blog post, but then I want to maybe write a little aside or a little quick tip or something that I just want to stand out from the main part of my text. So I would first of all type that in as a normal paragraph. Okay, so here's a quick tip I want to stand out. Okay, so here's a quick tip I want to stand out. This is the text of my tip, blah, blah, blah. So this is the little section that I want to stand out. I can then come across over here to where it says color settings in the right-hand menu. And you'll see you have an option to change the background color and also the text color if you want to. We're just going to look at this option for changing the background color. So you can choose any color that you want. Again, you can choose these default options, or you can choose a custom color by sliding around this to wherever you want it to be to get the background color of your choice, or you can type in your hex code here. So let's just click on this blue, for example, and you can see that the text has that blue background behind it, which will automatically make that text stand out. Let's have a look at the preview and see what that looks like on the front end of your blog. Okay, so if we just scroll down here, we've got that little tip section there, which will really stand out and sort of catch your reader's eye as they scroll on past, which is great for adding little asides, little tips, little notes, anything like that, that you just want to stand out and catch the eye of your reader with. Okay, so the next thing I want to show you is how to add in some HTML code into your blog post. So you might want to do this for things like maybe an affiliate widget, or the other really obvious one is your sign up for your newsletter. So let's use that as an example. I want to put in the code for my sign up box for my newsletter. So again, we just click wherever you want to put that that bit of code, that in our case our opt-in form. So let's say we want to put it just here. Again, you click the plus. And you come down to where it says formatting and then select custom HTML. And you type in your custom HTML. So for example, if I wanted to put in an opt-in form at this particular point in my blog post, I would go to my email service provider. For me, that's ConvertKit. And I would go to wherever it is that I get the embed code from. So I get the embed code from here. And I would just copy that embed code, go back to my blog post, type in the embed code, and I can click preview just to see that it looks exactly as I want it to. And also you can preview the whole blog post here on the preview screen. And if we just scroll down, and there we go, there is my sign up box for my my opt-in offer, which is a checklist in this example, into my blog post. So that's really easy to add in those extra little bits of HTML code that you might need to add into a blog post. Okay, the next thing I'd like to show you is how to add in your categories, tags, featured image, and excerpts, where to put those. So you need to come across to this right hand menu, and click where it says document, and you've then got all of the options here for things like categories, tags, and so on. So you want to scroll down here to where it says categories and choose your category, whatever category you want this to be in. So let's say, for example, we want this to be in the blogging basics category. And if you've chosen two categories, you then want to go and select which one is the primary category. So here, for example, it might be blog content and blogging basics, but blogging basics is my primary category. It's really important for SEO that you do choose the right primary category. So which category does this blog post best fit? Okay, now we come to where it says tags, and you would add all the tags for this blog post. And if you are familiar with the Classic Editor, then it's just exactly the same as using the Classic Editor. If not, this is just where you would type in the tags which are relevant to your blog post. So say, for example, this is a blog post about using Pinterest, for example. So I would add in the tag Pinterest. And if it's a tag that you've used before, it will pop up here in the drop down. You just click on that, and there you have the tag Pinterest. Maybe it's about Pinterest, but I also talk about Tailwind in it. So I would just type in Tailwind as my tag, for example. The next section we come to is the featured image section. And this is where you would put in the featured image for your blog post. And this featured image is the image that, for example, appears on your homepage, or when someone searches and this comes up in a search, really anywhere where this blog post appears on your blog, you will see that featured image. So click on featured image and it will automatically pop up with your media library. You can either choose an image from your media library, or you can go to upload files. So let's say, for example, this pig one is actually the featured image. So we'd set that as the featured image. And then you come to excerpt, and this is the excerpt which again appears wherever your blog post is featured. So for example, if your homepage is set up to show excerpts, your excerpt would show up on the homepage. If someone does a search on your blog and this blog post appears in that search and you have excerpts on your searches, this excerpt will appear. So it's a bit like the featured image, but for words rather than pictures. And what I normally do with excerpts is I literally just take the first paragraph. So let's imagine this was a real blog post. I would scroll up and I would grab my introduction paragraph. I would copy that and then go back to document and scroll down to where it says excerpt. And I would paste in my first paragraph. You might want to tweak it depending on what your first paragraph looks like exactly. But usually if you've written a good first paragraph, it will work really well as an excerpt as well. The next thing you might want to do is change your URL slug. So your URL slug, or just your slug as it's often known, is the bit of the URL after your domain name. So my domain name is www.productiveblogging.com/ and then the next bit is my slug. To change that, you stay on this document tab here and you just scroll up to where it says permalink, and you've got URL slug written in there. And at the moment, our URL slug has just been taken from the title. So my title is your title goes here, and my URL slug is your title goes here. Now, often your title, if it's quite short, is a good slug, but not always. So if you wanted to change that to something more relevant, so for example, this is my example block editor post. So let's change this instead to example block editor post. And the convention is always to have your URL, or rather the words in your URL slug, separated by these little hyphens. Okay, so once you have written your post, you've added your titles, you've added your images, you've put in your links, you've put in any custom HTML that you need, you've set up your categories and your tags and your permalink, your featured image, your excerpt, you've done everything you need to do. The next step is obviously that you need to go and preview your post to make sure everything looks good. So we've kind of been doing that all the way along, but let's just do that one last time. So you would go up here to where it's got the option of preview or publish, and you would click preview, and you can then see your post. And you can just scroll down through your post, reading it, proofreading it, and making sure that is exactly what you want it to be. And when you're happy with it, then you can either publish it or schedule it, depending on what you would prefer to do with it. So if you want to publish that post straight away, you just come back to your editing screen, you click up here in the top right where it says publish, and that will publish immediately. If you would prefer that that blog post was actually scheduled for a date in the future, you would just want to come into, again, this document tab on the right hand side, and where it says publish, click on the word immediately, and that will then give you the option to change the date. So let's say, for example, I wanted to change this to go out on the 14th, and then you need to click back in if you want to change the time, and let's say I want that to go out at 9 o'clock in the morning, because that's when I normally publish my posts. And then you just click out of that, and you can see now it says publish, and it's got the date and the time that you're going to publish. And you can see also that this the publish button up here has changed from publish to schedule. So then you can click schedule to schedule that post. And if you decide actually you're not ready to publish or even schedule yet, you can just simply click here where it says save draft to save your post as a draft, which is obviously what I'm going to do, because I don't want this particular post to go out live on my site now or in the future. Thank you very much. Okay, and you can see there it's just, you just got a little tick that said it was saved. So it's all saved now. And if I wanted to go away from this post and come back at a later date, it would be saved in my drafts and I could carry on working on it later. Okay, so that is the bare basics of what you can do with the WordPress block editor. But I want to show you a few special features of Gutenberg. So the WordPress block editor has numerous special features. This is all like the cool stuff that you just couldn't do in the old classic editor, or you could do but you needed to know code, or it was complicated in some way, you needed a plugin or something. So the first thing I want to show you that's really great is that you can move your blocks around. So let's have a look at this little introduction section I've got here. Maybe I decide that actually I would like to move this section around. So I can click in to here where it says hit return and add more text, and I can hold down my left mouse key. You can see you've got a little hand there. As I hold down, it kind of almost grabs it, and you can just literally grab that and move it to where you want it to appear. Now, a little tip here, move it slightly right, otherwise it won't work. And you can see you get this like dark bar coming up showing you where you're moving it to. So if I was to let go now, ta-da, it would move that text. Or maybe I decide I want to move this picture down here. So I click into the picture and then I just grab in between those two arrows and I lift it up. And again, I've just moved it sideways because it doesn't work. If you try and move it up here, it doesn't work. You have to move it to kind of into that section and let go. And look, my pig's moved up. So you can move blocks that way if you want to, or the other way you can move blocks is by using these arrow keys. So you just literally click move down, and you can keep moving that little pig until you get it to exactly the place you want it to be. Or maybe I've decided I've gone too far, so I can click back up and I've put it back where it was before. So two different options to move around blocks, which is great if you're kind of moving around pictures or headings and you're trying to get a good structure to your text. You can play around with this to your heart's content. So that's the first thing. The second thing I wanted to show you is how easy it is to duplicate a block. So say you decide you love this pig picture and you want it 3 times in your text. You just click into your pig picture or whatever you want to duplicate and go to the 3 dots where it says more options. Click on those 3 dots and select duplicate. And you've got 2 pigs. And I could do that again. duplicate. So I've got 3 pigs now, and then I can use my ability to move Gutenberg blocks so that I can move my pigs to wherever I want them to be. I might want to move that one down, and I might want to move this one up. If you don't see these arrows, just remember to click in the picture that you want, and then the arrows will appear. So I'm going to move my little pigs up there. So now I've got my 3 little pigs in different places in my blog post. One of the best features of Gutenberg, in my opinion, is reusable blocks. This feature allows you to create a block which you can reuse again and again. And we saw that just now when I was doing those 40 pixel spacers. So you can use it for something like that, a formatting block, for example. But you can also use it for things like affiliate disclosures, links to your social media, links perhaps to a particular set of affiliate links, basically anything that you would like to go in multiple blog posts. I want to give you a quick word of warning here though. A reusable block can be reused anywhere within one blog post or across many blog posts, but whenever you edit a reusable block, it changes that block everywhere it appears. And if you delete a reusable block, that block gets deleted everywhere it appears. Now, that's obviously a good thing, but also a bad thing. It's obviously bad in that you can accidentally delete something from every post, but it's good because it allows you to make a change that automatically appears everywhere that block appears. So say, for example, you've got a reusable block, which links to all your social media profiles, and you always put that reusable block at the end of every post. And then one day maybe you change your Instagram name. All you'd need to do is change that Instagram name in the reusable block, and it would change in every blog post automatically. So it can be a really good thing, that feature, but just really be careful when you use reusable blocks, and really think about the fact that if you're making a change in a reusable block, it's going to change in every single blog post where that reusable block appears. Okay, so let me show you how you would create a reusable block. So let's use that example of wanting to create a block that links to all your social media. So let's just create a block. Just a tip here, by the way, if you get to the end and you're like, where's the plus sign? It doesn't appear at the end. So you just have to click into the paragraph above and click return, and then you'll get the plus sign here, and there'll also be one here. Okay, so let's create that block where I link to all my social media. So I don't know, let's say something like this. Okay, so I've created this little block which says, don't forget to follow me on social media. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And this is the sort of block that you could make a reusable block and reuse in every single blog post. So to turn this at the moment, it's just a normal paragraph block. To turn this into a reusable block, you're going to click into that block and you get the little menu, the toolbar rather, here. And then you want to click the 3 dots and select add to reusable blocks. And then you would want to give this reusable block a name. So for example, let's call this social media call to action. Okay, so there we go. It's my social media CTA, or social media call to action. And I just then want to click save. And that will now be saved into my reusable block. So next time when I'm writing a blog post, so let's just delete this a minute. If you just click on the delete, that doesn't delete it everywhere, that just deletes it in that post. It's only if you actually go in and delete it. I'll show you how to delete it in a minute. Okay, so let's say I've written my blog post and I want to add my social media call to action. I just click there and I then scroll down to where it says reusable, and I keep scrolling until I find my social media call to action, and it's put my social media call to action reusable block straight into my blog post. So you can imagine how useful this is for so many things, where rather than having to retype something again, you can just boom, 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 put in all of those things that you use in every single blog post. So I'll give you an example of one I use a lot. I've got one which is massive, which I call my end blurb, but it's basically just all the stuff that I would put in at the bottom of a post. So I just click here, and if I scroll down to my reusable blocks and I look for the one called end blurb, And there we go. I've got this section which I call more on this topic. Then I've got my social media call to action, which I call don't miss a thing. And then I've got my pin, and I've got an example pin there, which obviously I change each time. Okay, now let's stick on this end blurb that I have. Say I want to edit just this example of my reusable block. So I don't want to change this everywhere it appears. I just want to change it on this blog post. Well, that's really easy to do. What you would do is just go to the three dots. So obviously click into your reusable block first, go to the three dots, and just come down here to where it says convert to regular block. And now I have this section, which I always use at the bottom of all my productive blogging posts, and now it's fully editable. So I can edit each section as I want to. So for example, I can change the pin to the pin that I want to appear on this particular blog post. And I can also edit this section where it says more on this topic, so it fits better with the topic of the blog post I've just written. So that's how you would edit a reusable block, or rather how you would convert a reusable block into standard blocks, so you can edit it without worrying about the whole, am I going to mess up a whole load of other blog posts? So if you've converted it to a standard blog post, you can then edit it, and your edits just happen on this one blog post. But what about, for example, if I did want to make a change to a reusable block everywhere it appears? Well, again, that's really easy. So here we've got our reusable block that we just created for this blog post, my social media CTA reusable block. Let's say I want to change this, and I want to add in my YouTube channel, let's say. Okay, so let's click into that block. And at the moment, if I click around on that block, I can't edit it. So this is like a safety feature to make sure that you don't accidentally edit your reusable block. So I'm bearing in mind now I want to change my reusable block, and I want to change it everywhere. I then go and click onto the edit here. I can change the name if I want to, but I can also now edit the actual text or whatever happens to be in my reusable block. So here I've got at the moment my call to action, which is Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Let's add in YouTube. Okay, so I have changed the text now, so it says I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and YouTube, and then all I would need to do is click save, and that block's been updated. So if that block was at the bottom of every single blog post that I had, it would have now been changed everywhere that it appears. Okay, so the last thing I want to show you is a cheeky little shortcut that you can use to make using Gutenberg even quicker and even easier. So let's say I'm here and I'm writing some text, and I now want to add in a picture. Rather than worrying about finding the little cross and clicking the little cross, I can just type in the / key. And instantly it comes up with a list of my most commonly used blocks. And I can select one of those blocks if I see the block I want there. But let's suppose I wanted to, I don't know, maybe add in one of my other reusable blocks that I don't see there right now. All I would need to type in is probably REU, and it's already come up with a selection of my reusable blocks. Or let's say, for example, I want to add in that social media call to action that we created a couple of minutes ago. So I would just type the / and then I might type CTA, and it would come up with all the blocks that have the letters CTA in them. Obviously there's only one in this case, and I just click on that and I'd get my social media CTA reusable block. Okay, so I really hope this tutorial has helped you. If you are brand new to WordPress, I really hope that it will help you to create your very first blog post. And if you are maybe a seasoned blogger but you've been stuck on Classic Editor, I really hope this will help you write your first blog post in the WordPress block editor. If this tutorial has helped you in any way, I would love to hear about it. please either drop me a line in the comments or head over to social media. I'm at Productive Blogging on Instagram and Facebook, and I'm at ebgagano on Twitter. Really look forward to hearing from you, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching.